Hi guys, very good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I'm audible to you all.
Yes, sir.
So let's have we had a little bit of introduction. So let's dive a little bit deeper, like what is how JavaScript started and how does it we compare it to others. Briefly, I'll explain this. So in the market now, if you decide to become a developer, so your target should be to become a full stack developer, right? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
either now or
Yes, sir.
tomorrow, if you are getting into development, you should become full stack developer. So if you decide to become full stack developer, then you will have to decide on what language you want to become a full stack developer. The particular language that you have to see, right? So if you research in the internet or if you ask your friends and all, you may find these are your options. So Java, right? Hello. Then what else we have? Python, JavaScript, .NET, PHP. So like this, there are multiple options. There are multiple options. So we have Java, Python, JavaScript, .NET, PHP. This can keep on going. Even there are small things like, I mean, the language itself is not small, but the market share is small. Say you might be heard of Ruby and Rails, right? So there are many things like that. So out of all which now you have joined for this one. Again, to confirm here, we will not be doing full stack here. We'll be doing only the front end part of it. So first, let's understand what does it mean by a full stack developer. If you take any application, it may be desktop app, it may be web app, it may be mobile app. There are three things. One, we'll have front end, right? So in simple, we can call it as a user interface. This can be web, this can be desktop, this can be mobile, anything. And then typically we use the term backend. So which is basically the business logic. We have front end, then we have back end. And to save the data, we'll have database. The developer who have the knowledge of how to work with the database and business logic and the front end. He is basically called as a full stack developer, and full stack developers are the one who are highest paid in the industry now. So you might be hearing a lot about recession, right? Many people are losing the job. Right, guys? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So if you have a strong knowledge of complete full stack, you will never get fired. So all these people which you are seeing that 10,000 people lost the job and all, they are mostly into sales, marketing and all. So when you look at that IT companies downsizing or giving pink slip to many of the employees, it doesn't mean that people in IT company, people who are developer getting fired. Developers are not the one who get fired first. Probably especially if you are in a core team, you may never get fired at all. All right. So if you are a full stack developer, consider that once you acquire that knowledge, once you get into a good company, consider that your life is pretty much is good enough, like secure. Now coming to this, the Java. If you want to become a full stack developer in Java, so for the front end, either you go for Java or you go for Python or .NET or JavaScript for anything, for the front end, either you make use of React.js. These days is pretty much has become a standard practice, or Angular. Okay, either you make use of React.js or Angular. But in Java, you would study for the backend and database part, Spring and Hibernate. In Python, you would study Django, a framework. In .NET, I don't know what you would study there. In JavaScript, you will study Node.js and MongoDB. Is MongoDB. So this is a Java full stack, this is a Python full stack, and here we have JavaScript full stack, right? Suppose if you choose to become a Java full stack developer, it is not a bad option. It's also a good option. If it is to become a Python full stack, that is also a good option. If you go for JavaScript full stack, that is also a good option. Okay. But right now in the market, the language which is trending is JavaScript. So that comes to, not understand that, let's go and understand a little bit of history of JavaScript. How did JavaScript actually came into existence? So here is the fact. The name of the JavaScript, the language which you're going to study, the name of that language is not actually JavaScript at all. The name of that language is basically called as ES script or ECMA script. Is it clear? So why do we call this ECMA script or ECMA script as JavaScript? So the ECMA stands for European Computer Manufacturers Association. Okay? European Computer Manufacturers Association. So this is now the language has become popular with another name called as JavaScript. So why is that? The reason is because back then, during I think in 1995, I guess, the language Java was introduced in the market. And the people, the Sun Microsystem at that time, who are the original owners of JavaScript, now it has been sold to Oracle. So those people, they are spending millions of dollars on advertisement of Java, that Java can run anywhere. And it was becoming quite trending language back then, 1995. Okay. So at that time, the websites were just evolving, they were getting better. There was a browser called Netscape Navigator from some company. So they wanted to add some interactivity to their websites applications, client side, some interactivity, or some doing some client side validation, so some animations and all, So they wanted one, and this is basically sits in the user interface, right? User interface, UI. And UI is developed using HTML and CSS. Back then, those people are basically called as UI designers. So UI designers were not core developers. They were, how do you put it? They're not technically highly skilled. So they wanted to come up with a language which is simple for these kind of people to understand and add some code which can run in the browser and add some interactivity. Okay. Let's say if you move your mouse cursor over something, you want that to some pop-up should happen, or kind of those kind of small interactivity they wanted to add. So they team with one person to develop one brand new language, and that language is basically called as ECMA script. And during that time, there's another language called Java, which was quite becoming popular. Now they decided to take the advantage of this, and they simply call the ECMA script as JavaScript. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So the idea really worked. It actually picked up very well. It acquired good market share. And to be frank, now how Java is related to JavaScript, actually there's no relation at all. The reason is because Java is a statically typed language. Okay. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. There's absolutely no similarities at all. If you, one second. So these are actually two different languages. It's like comparing oranges and apples. Statically typed language, Java is basically an, back then it is object oriented programming. Completely oops. But JavaScript, we were using just functions. Even though we use functions, classes were introduced only quite recently, like, in the ES6 version, just few years back, that was introduced. So if you look at the original documentation of JavaScript and all, let me do that search for you. I will search JavaScript documentation. Okay. So I will go here. The standards for JavaScript are ECMAScript language specification. Are you getting it? This is actually the original name. ECMAScript. Is it clear, guys? Hello?
Yes, clear.
So now, the one important question that we all have to address here is that, okay. So the important question here is that, since it was introduced for the people who are ordinary, not technically strong, so the language has to be very, very simple. So the JavaScript was kept very, very simple that anybody could easily understand. So in fact, JavaScript is one of the most easiest language on earth to learn. Okay. Now coming to this, since it was introduced to this, uh, how do I become a full stack developer? So it was in the front end for a very, very long time. And the other languages, like let's say Java, they try to replace the front end with their own. They had something called applets, which didn't, people didn't buy that, idea, and that become a flop. Eventually, they dropped further development of that. So other languages, different people have tried different things. Like Adobe has come up with the Flash. There used to be something called Flash back then. Okay, so many things has been done, but ultimately everybody adopted JavaScript. Either they are into Java or into Python or Ruby and Rails, PHP, .NET, for anything. For the front end interactivity part, they have to study JavaScript. They should have the skill on JavaScript. So it has become the norm over a period of time. And then after few years, JavaScript people, ECMAScript people, they thought, why two different languages? For front end one language and for back end one language. Why don't we introduce JavaScript also to the backend, right? So they come up with something called Node.js. And remember this, Node.js came after Python, after Java, they all were dominating in the market. And then Node.js came. But the biggest advantage Node.js or the JavaScript had was, what are the mistakes in the language design that Java people had? What are the mistakes that Python people had? They kept all those things in mind. The best of Java, best of Python, best of Ruby, best of .NET. They took the best of everything and they made this language then for the backend. That is JavaScript. So industry instantly picked it up, because in Java, if you spend 10 hours to develop something, using JavaScript, you could just do it in 3 hours. That is a huge, saver. Say that means if a company is paying you, let's say 2000 per hour, and for 10 hours of work, they would be paying you 20,000, right? Sorry. Yeah, 20,000. Now, the same thing, if what can be done in 20K, if it can be achieved in 6K, right? That's a huge saver, isn't it? So the era of rapid application development. Rapid means fast, you have to develop an application. So those eras have started. And then JavaScript started acquiring the market, both in the front end and in the back end. So especially there are few advancement happened in the JavaScript. That is, first Google has introduced something called Angular. Then Facebook introduced React.js. Okay. And this almost instantly, this was becoming quite trending, and then React.js overtook the Angular, and most of the new projects are in React.js only now for the front end. And JavaScript is a dynamically typed language that we'll learn what is dynamically typed, statically typed later. So what happened? Suppose if you want this to be statically typed language, you want this language to behave like that. For that, Microsoft has introduced one new JavaScript library called as TypeScript. So this was the game changer. So JavaScript got the power that no other language is having. That is, out of the box, it is dynamically typed. If you want this to be statically typed, then you make use of TypeScript. You get this? So like this, almost every company is moving forward in contributing to development of JavaScript. Today we are living in the era, JavaScript is, beating all other languages and making its way to the top. Okay, so that's enough theory. So far concepts are clear. Any questions?
No.
No, sir.
Mugdesh, Anirudh, Supriya, you guys are there?
Yes, sir. We do have like Vue.js as well, right?
Pardon?
Like framework Vue.js,
Vue.js, okay.
Angular, React, and Vue.js.
Yes. So, Vue.js almost does the same job as the React.js or Angular will do. So there are not just Vue.js, there are many new front-end libraries are keep on coming in the market. Okay. Suppose if some company is hiring for Vue.js, and if there's a shortage of the people who have the skills on Vue.js, they would hire the people who have the knowledge of either Angular or React, because if you know one library or framework, it's very easy to know other. So if you once you complete studying React.js and later you want to study something new, okay, it may take just 2 or 3 days for you to get a hold of it. It's just a library, okay.
Okay.
So just to give you another idea, there's a library called Electron.js. Today, most of the desktop applications are created using Electron.js. In Electron.js, you can also make use of either React, Vue, Next, Relent CSS, all these things you can make use of it. See, all these desktop apps are developed using Electron.js. Even this one, this Telegram that we are using here, right? This is actually developed using Electron.js. Microsoft Teams, Skype, your Visual Studio Code. You're gonna make use of Visual Studio Code that is also developed using Electron.js. So this is just on one JavaScript library. So now anything you want to achieve, for that there is a JavaScript library now in the market. You can simply make use of it and develop it. All right.
Yes.
So out of all which, here we decided to go with React.js, not full stack. The reason is because Full stack syllabus is vast. It will take 7-8 months to complete the syllabus properly and to bring it to experienced person level. Now there is enough job market created enough jobs for front end, that is React JS. So there is sufficient openings are there, and people are almost getting paid as much as any full stack developer. We can complete the entire syllabus in between 3 to 4 months of time, and also complete the project and come to the experienced person level and get a job immediately. So after you get the job, go forward and complete studying Node.js, MongoDB. The major thing is the foundation, that is very essentials. So that I will be covering here in the class. So with that knowledge, you can easily study any other library. Okay. So now, so we'll be using Visual Studio Code. Just download Visual Studio Code and install it. Have you guys already done? Hello?
Yes.
So go and search Visual Studio Code for download. code.visualstudio.com. There's another thing called Visual Studio ID. This you should not download. We are not interested in this. This is a heavyweight application, right? We are interested in this Visual Studio Code. I have did the reinstall of my Windows in the morning. So let me set it up quickly. If you guys not done, do it also along with me now. Make sure that you select this. So when you right click on something, you will have an option to open that using the code. If you don't select that option, it will not be there. So Visual Studio Code is an editor which we'll be using for running or typing our programs and running the code. So ideally, if you're gonna do a program, first you should open your command line. How do you open your command line? Hold Windows button, press R. This will open this. If you don't know how to do that, just press the start button and type CMD and choose this. Okay. When you're working, you should look brilliant to others. So that means you should use all the shortcuts and all. So I'll switch to D drive. So that if at all, if anything happens and if I have to reinstall my Windows, the one I'll be formatting is my C drive. So I don't want to lose any data. So I'll switch to my D drive using D: command. And I will let me increase the font size so that you can see better. So here, if you do DAR, you can see all the files, folders that you are having. What I want to do, CL is for clearing the command. I'll create a directory, mkdir, and I'll call it as Hori 2023, or I'll simply call it as 23. So that's your batch name. So I go inside that using the CD space, that folder name. Now, what I'll do here, I'll type code space, let's say namaste.js. So basically what I'm doing, I'm giving a file name as input to Visual Studio Code. Code will invoke the Visual Studio Code. So here, I'll type a simple program, console.log namaste right here. Okay. So what is this console? What is this log? Don't worry about it. Just do the program as it is. Today's agenda is only to just run the program. So I'll come back to my CMD and I'll execute this using node space namaste.js. It will not work because I don't have the node.js installed. I will do that now. I'll go here and I'll search node.js download. I will go for Windows installer. So who are all not installed Visual Studio Code and Node.js here? Not yet. All done. Adarsh, Anirudh, Mugdesh,
No,
Prasanna.
sir. I have installed a Visual Studio Code, but Node.js I am installing now.
You can do it now. Double click. Next. Accept. Let the default folder be as it is. So this is important that it is selected. Add to path. Or else we'll have to you select this and click on next, install. It asks you, if it prompts you to press yes, just press yes. So it is done. It asked me to press any key, so I pressed any key. So it is installed on a script called chocolate. We would need it sometime later. So we'll let it to happen. So if the Python is not present in your system, it will install Python also. So every day right after the class, I'll be sharing you the class recording as well. So if some steps, if you are not able to do it, you can go through the video, pause and do it properly. So I should have installed and then get the class. Who are all doing the installation parallelly here? In all the system installation is done.
I'm doing it right now.
Sir, I have done already. That's why I want to just.
So while you're installing, if you need any help, do let me know. Okay, they'll ask you to share the screen and let's see if I can help. So the Node.js is actually already installed. I can go ahead and try that. The problem is that this command line which I opened would have opened with the previous path environment variable value. So there is an environment variable called path, okay, which will contain the path of all the executables. Since it's open with the previous values, Node.js path may not be there. So what I'll do, I'll close this and I will reopen. And I'll go to my directory D, then only 23. So here we have a file called namaste.js. I'll execute this node space namaste.js and it just works fine. So the chocolate script installation is happening, let that to happen. That's all right. So far things are clear, guys. Hello?
Yes, sir.
So this is what your assignment today. I want you to have Visual Studio Code installed and create a file called namaste.js. If you don't know the basics of commands, then please do watch the recording after the class and pause and do it. Just write this statement, save the file, make sure file is saved, then come back to your CMD and execute. And you should see whatever you have written in console.log, that you should see here. That means we've done our installation properly and everything is working. We are ready to start our trial. So officially we'll start from tomorrow. So these two classes you can call it as introductory. So any questions?
No.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right. So that's all for today. We go slow initially. As slowly we go forward, we'll be speeding up. And remember that it is mandatory to attend from your laptop. And if you are facing any problem in achieving what you have done now, you have to take my help. You can message me and I will help you. We make sure that everything is done right before the class tomorrow. And tomorrow I'll be asking you to do the program along with me. You have to do the program and I'll be cross-checking whether you done it or not. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Fine, guys. So good night, sweet dreams. See you tomorrow at 8 p.m.